Hey there friends and enemies, JoPa here again, and today I want to do a quick breakdown of the first Destiny 2 developer livestream for Into the Light because there was a lot of interesting information to go over. First off, we are getting a brand new Horde mode that is finally happening in Destiny 2. I've been waiting for this since launch, and it might not be everyone's cup of tea, but I cannot wait to get hands-on with it. It is going to be more of a Horde defense mode where you are going to set traps for the enemies. Once you defeat some of the Witness's forces, they're going to drop scrap, and you use that scrap in order to upgrade decoys, turrets, and trip mines. So it looks pretty interesting. You're also going to be fighting alongside Shaxx's Red Jacks, which is pretty cool. It's a 3-player activity. You're going to defend for 6 waves or so, and then you're going to take on a side content, a little side objective. If you complete all of the side objectives in the Horde mode, you will get additional rewards. If you complete the Horde mode onslaught on the highest difficulty, you will also get additional rewards and surprises. And overall, it sounds very, very cool. There's 2 levels. One is going to be 10 rounds, and then you're going to have a harder option, which is 50 rounds. And that sounds absolutely insane to me. Hopefully it is enough to test out your builds and really see how far you can take it. It is going to have escalating difficulty with bosses every 10 levels. Now, one of the more fascinating things is that as we're progressing through and it's getting more difficult, you should be able to upgrade your defenses as well, which might mitigate some of that. They did mention that it should be Grandmaster Nightfall difficulty, maybe even harder than that, which some people find Grandmasters to be too easy right now. Some people still find them very challenging. So whichever way that goes, it could be very, very interesting. I also think that it'll be essentially a war of attrition because 50 waves sounds like it's going to take a very long time. So you definitely have to stay locked in for quite a while. Now, again, as you're going through, you're defeating enemies, you're collecting scrap, you're going to be set in certain locations in the last city. After you go through the portal, you're going to jump into the pyramid ship, do an objective, come back to your location. But eventually, after you defeat a boss, you're going to move on to a different part of the city. And every time you jump into the game, it's going to be a different section of the last city. But as you progress, even though you're going to a new location, your defenses will remain. So you're still going to have all your upgrades that you've previously earned. There are also going to be champs, mini-bosses, and saboteurs who are going to drop batteries. You're going to throw the batteries at the objective that you're defending, called the ADU, and it's going to keep it charged. And then also, if it is fully charged, you'll get additional scrap by throwing those batteries at the ADU. Now, this is a type of activity we've seen a lot in Destiny history where you throw a ball at a certain thing, but it makes sense. Again, I think this is a case, as we are waiting for the final shape, with it being free content, that reusing some of these assets to make this content come out quicker than it might have otherwise makes a little bit more sense. Remember, the 30th anniversary update was a paid update, whereas this is going to be completely free. So you definitely have to keep in mind when comparing the two. Now, back to the activity itself, your defenses can be upgraded up to 3 levels, and you're essentially taking on each different race that is serving the Witness. So you're going to have Hive, you're going to have Cabal, and you're also going to have Scorn. So I think that could be very, very interesting to mix things up just a little bit, especially when we see what types of enemies we are facing as well. When you go into the pyramid ship, it's going to be very reminiscent of the pyramid ship strike that we currently have in the game. So that place is going to also look familiar to you as well. Now, Shaxx is going to be your vendor for this activity. You're going to earn currency from him called Hype, and that is going to allow you to purchase upgrades and also for your weapons that you're going to earn as well. It'll be interesting to see if you can focus any of those certain weapons over time. How that's going to work remains to be seen, but I am glad that we do have Shaxx as a vendor, especially if we get additional voice lines for him while we are taking on the onslaught activity, because he's one of my favorite characters in the game, and outside of PvP he's not nearly utilized often enough. So bosses are not going to have damage phases, but they will have augments to change the fight and give you buffs. Now, there are challenge versions of Onslaught as well, and those challenges, again, like I mentioned earlier, are going to provide additional rewards. The locations are going to defend throughout, and then more will be revealed about this in future live streams, such as augmentations on Onslaught are a bit like skulls in Halo's firefight, which was interesting when they mentioned that. I do think this is an activity that seems familiar to those who might have played that mode in Halo. And then scrap is earned together and spent individually. The whole activity is a horde / firefight type of vibe. And then the story. So essentially we are trying to keep the witness from invading the last city while working towards heading into the portal through the veil. So it does make a lot of sense lore-wise. We're waiting for Crow, Osiris, and Mara to build the bridge to the Traveler. Once they do so, we'll be able to make our way in, and that's going to start the final shape. And I do think this is a good stopgap as we're waiting, because it makes sense story-wise. There's going to be actual stakes as we are defending the city. We don't know what we're going to see, if there's going to be any cutscenes or anything like that, but either way, I'm sure we'll get some voice lines and some additional information on what's happening in the lead up to the final shape, which I think is good. And then yeah, I'm very, very excited to see how that works. It sounds like build crafting is going to be a focus for the activity at the higher levels. Every time you do a boss, the location changes, but the defenses from previous locations remain. I mentioned that earlier. You're going to get a chest every 10 waves, kind of like we saw from the coil activity, where you get chests every time you complete a rotation, which I think is very, very good, and will allow you to get rewards even if you don't complete the entirety of the Onslaught activity. Hopefully the rewards are better as you go and progress, and that would make worthwhile to chase that. Now, the higher levels are going to be not matchmaking. However, now that we have in-game LFG, you can either play the match-made version or look for a team trying to do that activity through the in-game LFG as well. Now, overall, I'm excited. I think this sounds like it could be very, very interesting. You're going to be tackling this activity that theoretically could be overwhelming if they have it like a Grandmaster, except they have a load of enemies attacking you. Say you have just wave after wave like you would expect from a Horde mode, and it feels like you're just constantly under pressure. That's what I want to see. I don't want it to be where we toss down a grenade, we use Reservoir Burst, we slay a bunch of enemies easily. At the highest levels, that is going to be something that hopefully it's not that simple. And at the lowest levels, hopefully it is that simple and you can really show the power fantasy so you have a little bit of something for everyone. Now, they also showed trophies of bravery as it drops. So if you missed the live stream today and you want an emblem, you can actually watch the next two, because they've increase those to go from an hour to an hour and a half, so that way you won't miss any of the emblems that are dropping on Twitch. But that's just something to keep in mind. Higher difficulties are private, and then bosses in Onslaught are named Claws of the Witness. And yeah, overall, I cannot wait. I think when we see the loot next week, that's going to be very, very important. For me personally, I want some of those old weapons to have really good perks, make them viable, and they are the last weapons that we'll see to chase before the final shape, so it will impact what build we're running as we head into that last major expansion after 10 years. Anyway, let me know what you thought of the live stream or of the recap. What are you most excited about? Are you still on the fence about Onslaught yourself or Into the Light at all? I'm very curious to see what the community thinks. Let me know in the comments down below. My name is Jopa. If you enjoyed the video, if you want to see more Destiny 2 content, like, comment, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. Have a good one, and I'll catch you all later.